Lots to break down from the Prime Minister's announcement, of course, about those tax cuts, and no one better to do that than Sky News business editor Ross Greenwood. Ross, I am hugely appreciative for you sticking around. It's been a big day for you with this news out at lunchtime. I played in my in my editorial, a question from the press conference today. David Crowe, he's from the Sydney Morning Herald, so no lackey of the Prime Minister, or not normally tough on the Prime Minister. He put it to him in that speech, in that press conference. Pam, what about these mitigating circumstances you talk about? You talk about the pandemic as a reason. You talk about the Ukraine war. He made the point, though, Ross, that Albanese knew about all of these things before the election, and at the election he recommitted Labor and himself to these tax cuts. So how does that stack up?
Well, it doesn't stack up, of course. What's changed is not the economy, not anything that wasn't known previously. What's changed is politics. And so this is a numbers game, pure and simple. The Prime Minister, by redirecting these tax cuts into middle and low income earners, is effectively playing the numbers game that there are more people there, therefore more voters, than what there are at the top end. And so this is not an economic measure, because the reality is that the one brilliant piece of tax reform that the Morrison government did was to get rid of the 37 cents in a dollar tax bracket, which meant that anybody earning between $45,000 and $200,000 would pay the same top rate of 30 cents in a dollar, which would give incentive for people to work harder, incentive for people not to dodge their taxes, incentive for people to go and get a second job if they needed more money, therefore adding to the labour force. So, the point is here that behaviour is changed by changes in tax policy, and really this, in many ways, is the wild card of what the government has done, and is the reason why Treasury and even the Reserve Bank are sitting and watching to see how behaviour will change in the future.
All right, well, take us through the detail. We had a bit of speculation earlier in the week. Where did we land?
Okay, so where we landed really is the government's done a couple of things. It's effectively taken down the top tier of taxation, where it will kick in to $190,000. We'll have some graphics to show you this on the way through as well. But on top of that, what it's done at the bottom end is effectively given more support to people at the lower end by lowering their tax rates. So this means that a person now won't pay any tax until they earn more than $19,000. But as I say, what they've done in the middle section is recommitted to the 37 cents in a dollar tax bracket, which means people earning from $135,000 out to that higher rate, which is now $190,000, effectively are going to find themselves in a situation. Now, where this is going to land is some of these electorates that you see here. And this is going to be the fascinating aspect that we'll try and watch, how it changes the politics. Because to me, Peter, it's not just about the broken promise, but it's about the aspirational aspect of it. So one thing I can tell you is that even though short term this has no impact on the budget, over the longer term, over 10 years, what was expected to cost the economy $363 billion will now cost $28 billion more, because ultimately, long term, Australians will pay more tax as a result of this policy. And this is something that the Prime Minister did not advertise today. And the reason why is because of bracket creep. Because if you have more tax brackets in there, you've added another one back in there, guess what? The people end up paying more tax back to the government.
It did strike me as bizarre as I was watching the Prime Minister today, and he's basically giving a backhander to anyone on 190,000 super rich. That's where Labor's landed those people now. Sure, $190,000 of income per annum, you're doing well, right? You're well off. But this is a government, Ross, that's letting anyone who's earning a household-wise $500,000, $500,000, get access to subsidised childcare. So none of this makes much sense. And your point there about more money at the lower end of the earning scale, fantastic, that's good, we know it's needed. But this is a point that Michelle Grattan pushed the Prime Minister on today, saying if you're going to give it to low-income earners, they're more likely to spend it. So that's actually inflationary. He says, no, that's not true, that's not true. He says, I've got all this Treasury advice to say you're wrong. What do you think?
Well, it's going to be interesting because, look, no matter who you give the money to, they're going to spend it, right? So the fact of the matter is that people ultimately spend that money. So wherever it lands, it's going to be inflationary. But this is the reason why I would say that both Treasury and the Treasurer were trotted off to the Reserve Bank Governor to basically try and work out whether they would change their inflationary forecasts about this. They wanted assurances that this wasn't going to potentially affect interest rates. The money's going to be spent. But the reality also is there's another aspect to this, and that is, Peter, that you think about what it does to competition in this country, and that is the smartest and the best and the brightest. You come out of university now, you're a top income earner, you've got a great idea. If the government here now has higher tax rates than other parts of the world, where are you going to be attracted to take your skills and talents? And even though we know Australia, as you said, one of the greatest countries in the world, and the fact is people are queuing up to come here to Australia, the reality is you want more people coming here with their best ideas. You want your tax system to be as competitive as it possibly can be. And the reality is right now that Australia's tax system is not competitive with the rest of the world. The high income tax rates that we pay here in Australia do not compare well with other parts of the world, and therefore we are not necessarily always attracting the best and brightest people here.
Not wrong, and of course you're going to contort your arrangements to create a company. You're not going to be wanting to be an employee. You're going to want the lowest tax rate. That's the company tax rate, given they've made that change. Ross, that was very comprehensive. I appreciate your time. As I said, I know you've hung around to join us here on Credlin. Thank you again.